Revealed, the incredible story of a mechanic who changed a millionaire's Ferrari in just 30 days. In the small town of Maplewood, secrets don't stay bottled up for long. When Jack, a 28-year-old mechanic with grease-stained jeans and a heart of gold, took on the challenge of a lifetime, everything changed. His humble auto repair shop, inherited from his proud veteran father, became the battleground for a showdown between town pride and high-class arrogance. The townsfolk leaned in, eager to see if Jack, known for his hard work and loyalty, could elevate his craft beyond the grease and grit that defined him. Jack had always been there for others, a fix-it guy who knew every rattle and hum of the vehicles that rolled into his shop. But he found deeper purpose with each wrench turn, especially as he balanced the weight of his mother's struggles. They were a team, both fighting their own battles but always united. She wore worry like a second skin, yet managed to fill their small home with laughter. Jack often reminded himself of her unwavering belief in him, and it fueled his dream of someday rising above the everyday hustle, sharing a bigger slice of life. Then came Bruce, a newcomer with a flashy red Ferrari that practically screamed, "Look at me." It sputtered and wheezed more than zoomed, creating a spectacle in the town square. Jack, with his cropped hair and steadfast determination, felt a surge of defiance when Bruce dismissively dubbed him, "just a mechanic." That one sentence ignited a fire within Jack. This wasn't just a chance to prove himself, it was about restoring dignity, his own, and that of the community that had overlooked him. Word spread fast that Jack was taking on Bruce's $1 million machine. Skepticism filled the diner, where people sipped coffee and whispered behind mugs. Can he really handle it? They'd say, but all he felt was the gnawing desire for validation. He dove headfirst into the project, pouring late nights and sweat into the restoration. As days turned into weeks, each turn of the wrench brought new challenges. Miscommunication with Bruce sent tension spiraling, and whispers of doubt swirled around him. Jack's patience frayed. It stung when Bruce flaunted his wealth, his arrogance flashing like the Ferrari's chrome. Strain seeped into Jack's relationship with his mother, who worried that her son was losing sight of what really mattered. Moments of joy turned bittersweet, laughter echoing like a haunting reminder of the bond they shared, now pulled tight by the strain of ambition. In the final days of the project, just as Jack felt a flicker of hope reflecting in the Ferrari's gleamed hood, tempers boiled over. Jack and Bruce stood beneath the relentless sun, words heavy with tension. "You think you're better than me?" Jack spat. Bruce's laughter stung, revealing prejudices that ran deeper than they dared to admit. The air crackled with unresolved emotions, the townsfolk watching with bated breath. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As their eyes locked, the weight of their worlds hung in the air. Could Jack confront his fears and prove his worth? Would Bruce ever recognize the grit behind the grease-stained mechanics of Maplewood? This tension was more than about cars. It was about acceptance, respect, and the struggle to bridge two very different lives. The answer lingered just out of reach, leaving hearts racing in anticipation for what would happen next in their intersection of lives. Jack's heart hammered in his chest as the sun beat down. He felt the sweat tracing his back, mingling with the adrenaline surging through him. The townspeople stood around, eyes wide, breaths held, witnessing this clash of pride and principle unfold. Bruce's smirk only deepened, a challenge gleaming in his eyes, as if he thrived off the friction. "Better than you?" Jack stumbled over the words, each syllable tinged with frustration. "This isn't about being better, it's about respect. You walk in here, and all you see is a mechanic. But I'm here to show you that there's more to me and this town than you think." Bruce raised an eyebrow, his confidence radiating like the polished finish of his car. "Respect? You earn respect through results, my friend. Let us face it. You can't turn a rust bucket into a supercar. The words felt like daggers, and Jack's vision blurred with anger and hurt. It's not just a car. This is Maplewood. It's our home. He took a step closer, fists clenching at his sides. This represents everything we have: our hard work, our sweat, our dreams. You wouldn't understand. A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd. Jack's voice was rising, raw and unguarded, appealing to something deeper than the cars they both loved. Just then, an unexpected presence broke through the crowd: an elderly woman, her back slightly hunched but her spirit staunch. "Jack, dear," she called out, her voice warm and steady. "Show him what you can do. Show the town what you're made of. It's not just about that car, it's about who you are." The townsfolk shifted, their eyes now turning toward Jack with a mix of support and belief. They saw him as not just a mechanic, but a son, a friend, a part of the fabric that made Maplewood what it was. Inspiration filled Jack's chest, a counterbalance to the anger festering within him. "All right, Bruce," Jack said, his voice calm yet resolute. "You want results. You'll get them. But I want your respect, not because of your money, but because of my skill and what I mean to this town." "Deal," Bruce spat back, momentarily caught off guard. "But you better make it worth my while. If you fail, I'm taking my Ferrari and my business somewhere your talent can't touch." The challenge was set. Jack felt his heart race again, but this time, the weight had shifted. Hope flickered in his chest. He turned back toward the Ferrari, the gleam of it still blinding under the sun. He pictured the finish line in his mind, not just the finished car, but the respect and recognition he craved. Over the next few days, Jack threw himself into the project with renewed vigor. He cut no corners, committed to pushing his skills to their limits. As he worked into the late hours, the sound of hammering and engines became his symphony. His mother often brought him dinner to the shop, worry etched in her features, but Jack's determination lifted her spirit. This was their moment, together. Every bolt he tightened felt like stitching hope into their future, yet, tension was still churning below the surface between Jack and Bruce, between Jack and the townspeople who held their breath, waiting. Was it enough to show what a mechanic could do? As the deadline approached, Jack could feel a storm brewing not just in the sky above, but in the very heart of Maplewood. And just as he finished buffing the last panel, a loud crash echoed from outside, pulling him away from his moment of triumph. What had happened now? Jack's heart skipped as he rushed to the open door, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Would the storm break their resolve, or reveal a deeper truth about Jack's fight for respect? Jack burst through the door, his heart racing. The sun, now setting at the horizon, cast long shadows that danced eerily across the pavement. The crowd that had gathered around the shop was now shifting, a mix of shock and excitement in their eyes. "Jack! You've got to see this." Someone shouted from the back that he pushed his way through to find a wreckage of twisted metal and shattered glass. A delivery truck had barreled through the intersection, colliding with a parked car. The sight sent a chill down his spine. It wasn't just a few dents, this was a disaster. But what nailed Jack in place were the worried faces of his neighbors, people he'd grown up alongside. "Everyone okay?" Jack called as he stepped closer. "Yeah, we're fine," an older man replied, his voice shaky. "But that truck, it could have been much worse." Bruce strode up with his usual bravado, only to be deflated by the scene. "A little excitement never hurt anyone," he said, trying to regain his cool composure. But Jack saw the slight tremor in his hands, a telltale crack in his defiance. "Excitement?" Jack echoed, anger flickering beneath his concern. "We can't ignore this. It could have gone south very quickly." The tension between them bubbled back to the forefront, like soda shaken too hard. Bruce, never one to back down, jumped to defend himself. "This is just a small blip, Jack. We have bigger fish to fry. Your precious car, for one." Jack took a step back, trying to catch his breath, both from the shock and the weight of Bruce's dismissal. He refused to let Bruce's arrogance drown out the conviction burning inside him. "I won't let this happen again. Not to us, not to Maplewood," he declared, the words echoing off the buildings like an oath. Just then, the crowd cheered in agreement, voices rising, a chorus of unity and resilience. This moment sparked something deeper. Jack felt the fire of their support igniting his spirit. This town needed more than just a mechanic, it needed a leader, a person who would stand up for their dreams and safety. "Listen," Jack said, feeling their eyes on him, "this is our home. We made it together. We deserve to keep it safe." A murmur of agreement rippled through the townsfolk. "All right, so what is the plan?" Bruce muttered, skepticism still thick in his tone. Jack had to admit, part of him wanted to prove Bruce wrong, wanted to embrace the challenge of taking on something bigger than just fixing a car. "Let us restore faith in Maplewood," Jack replied, determination solidifying in his voice. "We can host a community event, raise awareness about safety on our roads. Let us fix this together." Bruce shook his head, a smirk returning. "You think that I'll do anything?" "Absolutely." Jack shot back with fire in his eyes. "It'll show that we stand stronger united. I'll work on the Ferrari during the day and show up the rest of the time to ensure we plan this right." The crowd's excitement grew. They churned with enthusiasm, no longer just bystanders but participants. Jack sensed the shift, a blending of energies that transformed their small, tight-knit community into a force. As plans unfolded, ideas bounced from one person to the next, laughter sweetened the air. It was a cathartic release, but it also pulled Jack deeper into a new revelation. While he had been focused on turning that Ferrari into a showcase of his talent, the real work lay in fixing what mattered most, the bonds within Maplewood. But just as the energy ignited, a sharp siren pierced the night, signaling trouble. Jack's heart sank again. "What now?" he muttered under his breath as he glanced toward the approaching headlights, casting unfamiliar shadows on the ground. Had their moment of unity come too late? What challenges awaited them now, and would they be enough to shift Jack's journey into a whole new gear? Suddenly, the world around Jack seemed to freeze. The wailing siren grew louder, drowning out the buzz of the crowd. Anxiety rippled through him, tinged with adrenaline. He steadied himself, forcing his gaze toward the flashing lights cutting through the dim evening. A police cruiser skidded to a halt, followed by an ambulance whose lights reflected off the surrounding buildings like a beacon of impending dread. Jack could feel the weight of his neighbor's eyes on him, expectant and anxious. He stepped forward, the urge to protect them overwhelming. "Stay back!" he shouted to those moving too close to the scene. The crowd instinctively complied, their eyes wide with uncertainty. "What is going on?" someone whispered, and the question hung heavy in the air. Then Jack noticed the paramedics rushing toward the wreck. They moved with practiced urgency, already pulling equipment from their bags. He watched as they dragged a gurney to the truck, a knot tightening in his stomach. In that moment, the energy of unity that had ignited moments before felt like a flicker against a gust of wind. Jack's heart hammered in his chest, a mix of fear and helplessness. What if someone was hurt? He thought, his mind spiraling with worst-case scenarios. The excitement of the event they were planning swirled away like smoke in the wind. This was a reality that had the power to change everything. "Jack!" Bruce's voice cut through the chaos. "We need to figure out what is happening." Bruce's bravado waned, revealing a more serious side. The familiar spark of competitiveness was replaced by genuine concern. "Let us find out if we can help," Jack urged, his voice now steadier. The community they had just begun to stir was still there, but this brought an eerie reminder of how fragile it truly was. Together, they approached the scene, their casual rivalry setting aside for something far bigger. The paramedics were now on the scene, examining the driver who seemed unconscious in the truck's cab. Jack's heart raced. Was he the driver that caused this chaos? The crowd held its breath, the only sounds those of the distant sirens and the bustling medics. An older woman in the crowd began to sob quietly, and Jack locked eyes with her. Her worry mirrored his own, a primal fear that something, or someone, might be beyond hope. He's going to be okay, right? She called out, her voice laced with desperation. The question hung heavy, and Jack felt the collective anxiety settle on him like an unwelcome burden. Before he could think, Jack turned and faced the crowd, his voice breaking through their unease. We can't lose hope. Nobody here wants to believe this is a loss, not after what we've just felt together. We're strong. We'll get through this. Jack didn't just speak, he poured every ounce of conviction he had into those words. As if aligning with his sentiments, the crowd began murmuring back in agreement, a stack of voices rising against the background noise of emergency responders. They spoke of strength and support, and Jack watched as emotions shifted from fear to compassion. Bruce stood beside him, hands clenched in a rare moment of unity, pushing back against the tide of uncertainty. In that instant, Jack realized that this was what the heart of Maplewood truly meant, togetherness in the face of trouble, collective resilience igniting like a touch of flame. The energy of the night wasn't lost entirely, it merely transformed. The event they envisioned was now more than just safety awareness, it was about healing, about pulling their community together in vulnerability. As the paramedics worked, Jack turned back toward Bruce, determination blooming anew. Let us spread the word. We'll do this event no matter what. We need to show our community that we can rise from this. Just then, the officer on the scene turned to them, his expression grave. We need to ask questions about the accident. Reality is, we need everyone's support. Jack felt his pulse quicken. What if this accident uncovered deeper issues in Maplewood? How could he turn this moment into a catalyst for change? As he stood there, rallying the spirits of those around him, Jack knew that this was just the beginning. But what had started as an unsettling moment could lead to something profound. Their town's future depended on how they responded now. With urgency radiating from his core, Jack took a deep breath. Let us fight for Maplewood. We can't let this go unanswered. What layers of truth lay beneath the surface? And how would this accident become the turning point for Jack and for everyone in Maplewood? Jack stood resolute, his heart racing as he absorbed the weight of the situation. The officer's serious tone echoed in his mind. Questions about the accident needed answers, and Jack could feel the urgency building within him. This was more than an incident, it was a wake-up call. Bruce, he said, gripping his friend's shoulder, we need to mobilize the community. Not just for the event, but to address what is happening here in Maplewood. This accident, it's a signal that something's wrong. Bruce nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. The shift in their mission felt monumental. You're right. This is bigger than we imagined. If we play our cards right, we can harness this energy to tackle issues we all know are simmering below the surface. We can't let fear take over. Jack felt a surge of hope. We need to gather everyone. Tonight. Let us transform this panic into action. The crowd was still buzzing with unease, but there was a flicker of resolve in their eyes as they leaned in to listen more closely to Jack and Bruce. He stepped forward, raising his voice above the murmur. Maplewood. He shouted, drawing everyone's attention. This accident isn't just a tragedy, it's a call for us to come together. We've got to start asking the tough questions and take care of our community. If we care about each other, and I know we do, we must speak up now. The crowd responded with murmurs of agreement, faces lighting up with recognition. Jack could feel a collective heartbeat pulsing through them, a rhythm of resilience and determination that matched his own. As the paramedics continued their work, Jack could see the storm brewing, the fear mixed with a desire for change. Someone from the audience shouted, "What can we do?" Jack seized the moment. We organize. We can create a neighborhood watch, or a community support group. We speak to the local authorities and demand accountability. We can't sit back while our future is decided for us. Bruce stepped in, passion igniting in his voice. Imagine what we could do if we came together. We can fix this. Let us use this event to rally a call to action. Let us address the dangers on our roads and demand better for our neighborhoods. A ripple of excitement moved through the crowd, voices rising in agreement. Yes. We want change. Those words reignited Jack's spirit. This was their moment, their chance to take charge. But in the back of his mind, he wondered what seismic issues lay beneath the surface, hidden from sight. Let South meet at the park tomorrow evening, Jack continued, and spread the word. We'll gather thoughts, ideas, frustrations, everything. And we won't stop until we're heard. As Jack caught sight of the officer nearby, his heart pounded. The officer was watching him, expression unreadable. What did he know? What was about to unfold about the accident? Just then, the paramedics wheeled the stretcher toward the ambulance, the driver still carefully secured. Jack's heart sank again as he recognized the driver's face. A name flashed through his mind, someone connected to the community he had grown up with. Wait! Jack called out, the air thickening around him as uncertainty clawed at his gut. Is that? As the ambulance doors swung shut, the officer turned back to Jack. We need to talk. A knot formed in Jack's chest. What was the officer about to reveal? Was this accident just a random tragedy, or was it intertwined with the very fabric of their town? And as Jack stood there, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on him, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of uncovering something far deeper than they'd ever anticipated. The real question now lingered in the air: what truths waited to be unveiled, and how would they reshape the community of Maplewood forever? Jack felt the blood rush from his face as the officer's words hit him like a freight train. He nodded slowly, trying to conceal the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him. Anxiety danced in his chest, and curiosity tugged at his mind. This conversation could change everything. The officer led Jack away from the crowd's escalating energy. Every step felt heavier, every uncertainty magnified. Listen carefully, Jack, the officer said, urgency lacing his tone. I know you want answers, but I need you to be prepared for what I'm about to say. Jack's heart raced as he caught a glimpse of Bruce through the crowd, his friend looking back with concern etched across his face. Jack wished he could reassure him, but this was a conversation that demanded his full attention. There's more to the accident than you realize, the officer continued, voice low. The driver wasn't just there at random. He was investigating something troubling, something connected to the community's safety issues. Jack's mind reeled. He thought of the rumors he'd heard over the years, whispers about corruption and neglect hidden under Maplewood's picturesque facade. Are you saying the accident was intentional? He asked, the question tasting bitter on his tongue. Not intentional, but it ties back to a larger problem, the officer replied, glancing around to make sure no one was within earshot. There have been complaints about the company's practices, corner-cutting that's put lives at risk. He hesitated, this might just be the tip of the iceberg. Jack felt a chill run through him. All those late-night conversations around backyard fires, the complaints about potholes and speeding cars, they were more than just minor grievances. They were a signal that the community was losing control. He opened his mouth to respond, but the officer cut him off. I need you to remain discreet for now. Whatever you uncover, be careful. It's easy to unleash a hornet's nest when you start asking questions. The knot in Jack's chest tightened. Was he ready for this? Could he bear the weight of the truth? Yet, as he looked back at the crowd, every face filled with hope and determination, he felt the collective heartbeat resonating within him. This was no longer just about the accident, it was about bringing Maplewood back to life. Just then, Bruce pushed through the crowd, concern etched on his features. Jack! Is everything okay? He asked, urgency bleeding through his tone. For a moment, Jack hesitated, battling himself over how much to reveal. He needed Bruce by his side. He couldn't navigate this storm alone. It's worse than we thought, he finally admitted, looking into Bruce's eyes. It's not just about what happened today. There is something deeper at play. Before he could share more, the officer stepped back, a look of warning on his face. Meet me later to discuss the details, he said, and with that, he slipped back into the crowd. A newfound fire kindled in Jack's heart as he turned to Bruce. We have to act fast. We need to gather more people, organize meetings, get everyone on board. If this accident is linked to something bigger, we can't just sit back and wait for it to happen again. Bruce nodded, his eyes alight with determination. Let us make it happen. Tonight is just the beginning. We'll bring everyone together and turn this fear into a movement. As they began rallying the remaining crowd, Jack felt the weight in his chest lift slightly. Hope flickered within him, reminding him why they were here. But behind that hope loomed an undeniable fear. What would they uncover as they delved deeper? With adrenaline surging, Jack raised his voice. Let South meet at the park tomorrow. Together, we can start rebuilding our community. But we have to be ready for whatever truths come to light. Just as the crowd's cheers erupted, Jack caught sight of a familiar face at the edge, a shadow from the past that could hold answers, but also pose a threat. Could this person help them, or were they turning to the wrong ally? What secrets lurked in the shadows of Maplewood, and were they ready to face them head-on? The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over Maplewood. As the crowd began to disperse, Jack felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. The cheers had echoed in his ears, but now, the reality of tomorrow's meeting settled heavily on his shoulders. He faced Bruce, who was buzzing with excitement, yet Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Did you see her? Bruce asked, eyes wide. The woman who was standing back. I swear I recognize her. Jack felt his heart drop. You mean the one near the trees? He struggled to recall her features, but an unease settled over him. It was the same unease that had unspooled with the officer's words. She looked like someone from our high school, Bruce continued, squinting at the exit where she had disappeared. Wait, wasn't she in that group that went missing a few years back? The mere mention of disappearances sent a shiver down Jack's spine. The rumors had always lingered, stories whispered in dark corners about people vanishing against the tranquil backdrop of their small town. He shook his head, trying to dismiss the thought. Let us focus. We need to get the core group together tonight. If we can strategize before the meeting, we'll be in a better position to bring everyone on board. Right, Bruce nodded, but Jack could see the doubt clouding his friend's enthusiasm. But what if that woman, what if she is here for a reason we don't understand? Jack took a deep breath, forcing himself to think clearly. I don't know, Bruce. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. If she knows something, it could be valuable. But right now, we need to rally our support. As they walked through the fading sunlight towards their diner, the warm glow of the evening brought a sense of familiarity, a bubble against the chaos brewing. The diner was a safe haven, where laughter and the aroma of fries mingled with the scent of motivation. They gathered around their usual booth, 5 faces, each etched with apprehension and determination. Sarah, a spirited activist, leaned forward. What do we even know about this accident? We can't just go in blindly. Jack exchanged glances with Bruce before speaking. We're piecing it together, but it seems like this isn't an isolated event. There's a connection to the construction companies and their practices. We could leverage that. What about the police? Jason, their tech-savvy friend, chimed in. Do we trust them? Or could they be in on it? Jack's stomach twisted. We need to tread carefully. There's a lot at stake, and the truth may not be what it seems. If we push too hard, we might find ourselves facing off against something much bigger. What's the plan? Sarah asked, her brows furrowed. Jack felt the weight of leadership settle on him. He could feel the tension flicker as everyone leaned in closer. Tomorrow, we meet at the park, no more than we need to share. We'll divide into groups, spread the word, and start gathering information. Just then, the door dinged open, cutting through the gravity of their discussion. The familiar face from earlier stepped in, scanning the room. Jack's breath caught in his throat. This wasn't a moment of clarity, it felt like a warning siren. Could this be the ally they needed, or was she a specter threaded through dark secrets? Whatever path lay ahead, one thing was clear, the shadows were getting longer, and they had no idea what awaited them in the heart of Maplewood. As the woman approached their booth, Jack felt a pulse of uncertainty. Would she unravel the truth, or draw them deeper into danger? The woman made her way through the diner, weaving past the tables filled with patrons lost in their own conversations. Jack's heartbeat quickened as she approached. He tried to read her expression, searching for clues, but her face remained a mask of calm. "Hi, is this seat taken?" she asked, glancing at their booth with an inviting smile that sent a mix of hope and wariness through the group. Jack exchanged nervous glances with Bruce, who nodded slightly, urging him to say something. "No, please, have a seat," he managed, motioning toward the empty space beside Sarah. The woman slid in, her movements graceful yet deliberate. "I didn't mean to intrude, but I saw you all talking. I sensed urgency." She paused, letting her gaze sweep over their determined expressions. "I think I can help." "What is your name?" Jack asked, curiosity peeking above his caution. "Lila. I used to live here a while back." She hesitated, as if weighing her words carefully. "I only returned recently after hearing things about the construction site. About the accidents. What do you know about them?" Jason interjected, leaning forward, his eyes bright with intrigue. Lila took a breath, her hands fidgeting with her purse. "I was part of the group that disappeared. There were rumors about what was happening in the town back then, and I feared it wasn't over." "Wait," Bruce said, raising his hand just a bit, "you were one of them? The missing people?" Lila nodded slowly, her expression darkening. "Yes. We thought it was just a coincidence, but now I believe it was something much bigger. I've seen that connection you're talking about, the shady practices linked to the construction projects. They don't want people to know." The diner seemed to quiet around them, the clinks of cutlery and low conversations fading into the background. Jack could feel his heart racing. The danger was becoming too real, too concrete. "What do you mean by bigger? What have you seen?" "There are files, evidence," she replied. "I stumbled upon some documents when I returned. I didn't understand everything, but I know enough to realize they're covering something up, something that involves more than just accidents. Lives are at stake." Jack swallowed hard. This was the moment he had feared. Could they really dive deeper into this darkness, risking everything? "Why now?" he asked, his voice steady but uncertain. "Why come to us?" "I didn't have anyone else to turn to," Lila said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You seem like you care, like you're willing to fight for your town. I need your help to expose them before it's too late." The weight of her words hung in the air like a storm cloud. Jack felt the gravity of the decision settling on him. He met the eyes of his friends, seeing the same mix of fear and determination reflected back. They all felt it, the call to action, igniting a flicker of hope amid the shadows. Sarah broke the tension, leaning closer to Lila. "What do we need to do?" Lila's eyes sparked with a mixture of hope and clarity, her resolve palpable. "First, we need to gather the evidence. Then, we can figure out a plan to bring it to light. But we must be careful, they're listening." As the group shifted closer, Jack could feel the adrenaline building. They were teetering on the edge of something dangerous, but it was also an opportunity. "No turning back," Jack said finally, feeling the weight of the moment ground him. "We do this together." Just then, an unexpected commotion erupted at the diner entrance. The door swung open with force, and in walked a pair of unfamiliar men, their eyes scanning the room. Unease washed over the booth like a cold breeze. Jack's stomach twisted. They looked out of place and more than a bit menacing. What were they doing here? Were they watching them? Jack's mind raced as he glanced back at Lila, a silent question passing between them. Had they already been compromised? The warmth in the diner seemed to evaporate, leaving behind a prickling sense of dread. Whatever they were about to uncover, it wasn't going to be easy. And it was only just beginning. Jack's heart pounded as he tried to gauge the intention of the two men. Their sharp, assessing glares felt like a spotlight on their booth. He could barely hear the clatter of dishes or the buzz of chatter around them, all his focus was on the intruders. Lila noticed his tension. "Stay calm," she whispered, her eyes not leaving the men. "If they're connected to the site, they might already know something." Standing tall, the first man, with a lean build and dark sunglasses, made his way toward their corner. The other followed closely, a hulking figure with a stern face and a hardened expression. Jack's stomach churned. They were too late already, they had been spotted. As the taller man approached, a forced smile stretched his lips. "What a cozy little gathering we have here," he said mockingly, leaning against the booth's edge. "What's the topic of discussion? Something about accidents?" The tension snapped like a taut string, and Jack felt the blood rush from his face. "We're just catching up," he replied, trying for nonchalance, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Lila's gaze hardened. "And who might you be?" she asked, no trace of fear in her tone. "Just some guys who keep an eye on things," the man replied, tilting his head slightly. "You wouldn't believe the trouble that's been brewing in this sleepy little town." His words felt like a threat, heavy with implication. Trouble? Or maybe just people looking for the truth? Sarah shot back, her voice confident but shaky. "Ah, but the truth can be dangerous," the man said, his expression unervingly calm. "You wouldn't want to get tangled up in something that might disappear." Again. Jack stood up, confronting the man eye to eye. "You don't scare us. We know what's happening, and we're going to do something about it." The man leaned closer, his voice lowering. "You think you do, kid. But believe me, you're in over your heads. Take my advice, walk away, or you're going to regret it." Frustration boiled inside Jack like a pot about to overflow. He wanted to shout, to fight, but deep down, he realized the danger that loomed over them. Lila's nod told him to stay composed, to think clearly. "Just leave us alone," Bruce said, stepping forward as well. "You need to understand we won't be intimidated." The man laughed softly, but it held a darkness that chilled the room. "This isn't a game. You don't know who you're dealing with." He nodded towards his companion, who hadn't moved but watched them with predatory interest. As they turned to leave, the air seemed to tremble with unspoken threats. Jack felt the weight of the moment close in around them, a shroud of uncertainty and fear. The men exited, but their presence lingered, a storm cloud overhead threatening to burst. "A warning," Lila said, her voice now serious. "They know we're looking into the accidents. They're connected to this somehow, and they could make us disappear too." Jack's thoughts raced. They were now in deeper than he had imagined, and every instinct in him screamed to back off. Yet, he could see the determination in his friend's eyes. They had come too far to turn back now. "What's our next move?" Jason asked, glancing between them. Lila took a deep breath, her resolve sharpening. "We need to gather those documents I found, and fast. We need a plan." Jack nodded, every part of him recognizing the stakes now. It felt like the town was teetering on a knife's edge, and soon enough, they would either tip it toward justice or plunge into the abyss of silence. "We'll meet at my place tonight," he said, his voice firm. "We'll figure this out together." As they stood up to leave, the diner seemed more alive than ever, the clamor of voices returning, but Jack felt the weight of shadows trailing behind them. What if the truth was buried deeper than they feared? And would they be able to confront it without losing everything they held dear? It had become more than just their town, it was a fight for their lives. The sky had turned a deep indigo, twinkling stars beginning to dot the canvas overhead as Jack and his friends gathered silently around his cramped living room. Adrenaline still coursed through his veins, mingling with the weight of what lay ahead. "All right, everyone, let us focus," Jack said, his voice steady despite the tension that filled the room. "Lila, tell us everything you know about the documents and what you've uncovered." Lila took a deep breath, her expression a mix of determination and fear. I found some files hidden in my old home. A family member had kept everything in a box. It lists safety violations that were buried under layers of bureaucracy. It ties the construction site back to the higher-ups in town, people you wouldn't suspect. They had their hands in everything, and they're not just careless, they're breaking laws. Jack's heart raced. This was bigger than he had imagined. If we can expose this, it might save lives, he said, excitement rising with clarity. But they're dangerous, Lila warned, eyes darting around the group. They didn't just threaten us. I've heard stories people who tried to speak up vanished. Jack gripped the edge of the table, grounding himself amidst the anxious emotions in the room. We need to be smart about this. We can't just charge in without a plan. Agreed. We should gather more evidence, but we need to keep our heads down while we work, Bruce chimed in. If we look too obvious, they'll see us coming. Let us split into two teams, Jack suggested. One group can focus on documenting what Lila found while the other digs into town records and safety complaints. We can meet back at the park before the community meeting. The resolve amongst his friends strengthened the air with a sense of purpose. Okay, but we have to stay vigilant, Jason added, crossing his arms. They might be watching. Hours passed as they divided their tasks, moving quickly and cautiously. Jack felt a sense of solidarity blossom, the weight of shared purpose uplifting his spirit. Together, they could wield truth against deception. As the sun rose the next day, a renewed sense of hope lit the town. People ground their coffee and shared whispers about the accident and the community meeting that was drawing nearer. News traveled quickly in Maplewood, the undercurrent of excitement mixed with trepidation filling every heart. At the park that evening, Jack stood before a growing crowd, his friends settled around him, and Lila's files stacked neatly on a makeshift table. Hushed murmurs faded, a sea of eyes locked onto him. The voices in the crowd ebbed as Jack stepped forward, courage surging within him. Thank you all for coming together tonight, he began, his voice carrying over the crowd. We're here to talk about something vital, our community's safety and the truth behind recent events. A wave of nods surged through the crowd, encouragement warming his determination. He shared Lila's findings, exposing the dark truths that lurked beneath their idyllic town. They demanded accountability, not just for the accident, but for the people who had quietly suffered from negligence. The crowd's murmurs blossomed into a resounding call for change. People like us deserve to feel safe. A voice shouted from the back, igniting a ripple of passionate affirmations. Jack felt his heart swell. This was it. This was the moment he had yearned for. As a community, we can't just stand by. We have to stand up, not just for ourselves but for those who've gone unheard in Maplewood, he declared, conviction thick in his voice. Together, we can confront the darkness and reclaim our home. Out of nowhere, the two men from the diner appeared at the edge of the park, casting a long shadow over Jack's speech. Tension thickened the air, but Jack held his ground, aware that all eyes were on him now. They think they can intimidate us, but we will not be silenced. And what are you planning to do, kid? One of them sneered, stepping forward. His partner loomed behind him, eyes scanning the crowd, much like a predator assessing prey. Anger boiled within Jack, but fear turned to resolve. A lot more than you think. We're taking a stand, he shot back, infusing purpose into each word that left his lips. The crowd surged behind him, buoyed by bravery, their voices united, drowning out the men's threats. With a flick of his wrist, he motioned for the officer he had spoken to earlier, who stepped into the scene, badges glinting under the park lights. These people deserve to know the truth, he said firmly, addressing the intruders now. An uneasy silence draped the gathering, thick like fog. The men exchanged glances but visibly faltered. The community's rallying spirit unsettled their bravado. We'll be watching, the taller man warned, backing away, his grin cracking at the edges. Good, Jack shot back, defiance igniting his spirit. Because we're not going anywhere. With the threat withdrawn, the crowd erupted in applause, a thunderous confirmation of their solidarity, their ambition rekindled. Jack felt the warmth of hope wash over him. This was their community, breathing life back into every corner. As night settled, Jack stood amongst his friends and neighbors, hearts thrumming like drums, willing to unravel the fabric of deception woven through their town. Together, they would reclaim their voices, protect their own, and set a course toward change. As they moved forward, for the first time in a long time, Jack felt like a part of something bigger, a family united, transforming the shadows of their past into the promise of a brighter future. They were Maplewood, strong and determined, ready to overcome whatever lay ahead, and as they walked back into the heart of their town, Jack couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Their story wasn't just about mechanics or millionaires anymore, it was about hope, resilience, and rebuilding a community that would never back down again. The battle wasn't over, but they were ready for anything. And that was just the beginning. This is your moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to hit that like button. Your support fuels our courage to share these stories. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this incredible ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspirational journey. You need to stand up and make your voice heard.